Hey everyone, Kyle from Andrew Hilton here, and I've got a brand new brewery to show you. For our upcoming beer tasting on Wednesday, August 25th at 6 o'clock, we're going to be introducing Category 12 Brewing out of Victoria B.C. Now, this is a brewery that I've heard a lot about, but never actually brought in before. So, really exciting. We're hoping to have a special guest for this one, but I haven't got that confirmed yet. Now, the mind behind this brewery, which was founded in 2014, is Michael Kuzyk, who is a PhD, actually. He left his career setting up high-end labs. He's got a doctorate in microbiology and biochemistry, and he actually, his fundamental career is the only around the world setting up research labs, but he actually got into brewing beer in his apartment back in grad school. So eventually, as they say on the can, he decided he wanted to make a beer worth leaving your career for. And in 2014, he jumped off. He stopped doing the actual microbiology thing. He stopped working in research labs. Or rather, he set up a really fancy research lab where he makes beer now. And we're going to taste 4 of his beers. Now, we're going to start out with an ESB. I do love a good ESB, and it's been like a year since we've tasted one. He's got a pair of IPAs, one Hazy and one West Coast, and then he's got a seasonal rotating sour series. They call it a periodic series. We're going to be tasting the Raspberry Vanilla Sour. So that's coming up Wednesday, August 25th at 6 o'clock. Can't wait to see you out.
Media Boutique.
Hi everybody, Kyle with Andrew Hilton here, and we have got some Category 12 for you. So, like I said in the promo, this is the brainchild of head brewer Steve Kuzyk, who got into homebrewing in the 90s, and in 2014 left his career to actually start Category 12 Brewing in Victoria, B.C. Now, he makes a ton of different beers. We only got 4 tonight, and with our crowd tonight, I mean, how could we not start with their ESB? This is their pivotal ESB. This is an interesting beer style. It doesn't sell all that well, and yet every time we taste one, everybody is wildly excited that we're tasting it. So our very first beer is the pivotal ESB. We'll go to the West Coast IPA second, the Hazy IPA, the Juicy Data, and then finally we will finish with the sour. So ESB comes out of actually what we were talking about with our Lager Week a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the invention of German Helles and Pilsners, which is that the English pioneered this method of drying barley or kilning malt in a way that was actually dry and clean, and it didn't impart this, rich dark color, this smoky flavor. They're actually finding a way to basically dry it clean and pale ale started to become possible, as did pale lagers. Now, ESBs, if you have them, can be almost completely pale, or they can be this nice rich coppery color. The ones that I like have a little bit of more malt character to them, have a little more color to them, but they can run the gamut. Bitters, of course, can have very, very low alcohol. I've had bitters in the store that were as low as 2.8%, and then they tend to creep up from there. ESBs, or extra special bitters, do tend to have a little more alcohol. They are, at least for Canada, the only bitters we really see exported from the UK, because the really low alcohol stuff doesn't travel very well. But they should always be a really pretty interplay of malt and hops. And they shouldn't taste like boiled asparagus or boiled Brussels sprouts or boiled broccoli, because, well, that tends to be the way a lot of them go. So here's hoping Category 12s doesn't. That's something that I would say I have in 3/4 of English bitters, is that boiled vegetal character. This tends to be pretty endemic. It's not, at least at very, very low perceptual flavor, it's not technically a flaw, but I like one with none of that at all. On the nose, it's not there. I get really nice, kind of lightly caramelized malts, a little bit of toast. The hops on an English style bitter, they should come off very steely and bright. They should remind you more of like limestone than they do anything else. These are very often beers where they also Burtonize the water. They use Burton-on-Trent salts to adjust the water to the same hardness as is done in the UK. Not a lot of notes available online on the pivotal ESB. I couldn't actually pick out whether the beer was actually Burtonized or not, but I would suspect, knowing just how much of a giant beer geek chemist nerd Steve Kuzyk is, I would be shocked if this beer wasn't Burtonized. Oh, that's exactly what I like in an ESB. Nice, firm, spicy malt profile, nice hops that are right through the mid-mouth, a little bit bitter, not really cheesy, not going into that green characteristic of like cooked vegetables. Just bright and steely, and you immediately want another glass. Alcohol is at 5 flat, which is on the high side for an ESB for me, but it's still pretty darned good. I could quibble at the fact it's not 4.5, but that's cutting it pretty thin. Is it the best ESB we've ever tasted on the channel? Well, I was going to ask Aaron, but he's drinking whiskey because apparently Aaron had a hard day.
Slow, man. I don't even remember, what was the other ESB we did?
The other ESBs we have done, we did the one from Endeavor. Sorry, the beer was called Endeavor ESB. I can't remember the name of the brewery. We also did OT's, they call it like an English style pub ale, but it was basically a bitter.
Right.
Oh, and John's back as well. Hello, John. Nice to see all these familiar faces again as summer's kind of wrapping up. Sorry, did you miss what Burtonized means? So yeah, the breweries that first started using this brand new pale malt, or at least the ones that became very, very famous for it, were based in Burton-on-Trent, which was really the hub of the English pale ale, extra special bitter, English bitter brewing, at least in the early days, and that carried through right into the midpoint of the 20th century when kind of the bigger breweries in the UK started buying up everything like Scottish and Newcastle and Guinness. As a result, the local water, which is a very, very hard water that's local to Burton-on-Trent, a lot of breweries, when they're trying to make these English-style pale ales, and historically, even some of the West Coast pales and West Coast IPAs, I do believe that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, when it was first being brewed, actually used water that had been adjusted to be the same pH, have the same soluble salts and soluble minerals. So when I say Burtonized, basically they take whatever the local tap water is and they strip it. They put it through either a double osmosis process, or sometimes they use distilled water. Regardless, they will find a way to make the water completely neutral, completely flavorless, no dissolved solids whatsoever, and then they will adjust the pH and the mineral levels and the salts to be exactly what the minerality in Burton-on-Trent is. It's called Burtonizing, or adding Burton salts, and it generally does result in a little bit of a firmer, crisper mouthfeel for your English-style beers. Yeah, the Brickworks, that was actually very good. So yeah, in terms of bitter styles, this is lumping together a lot of English beers. So if anyone here is a giant English beer aficionado, do forgive me because I'm really glossing over a lot of history here. All of these pale ales, all of these things like English milds, bitters, English pale ales, they all belong much to the same family. Now, they may be brewed with different yeasts depending on where you are in the UK. Some of them, like Pride of Ringwald, tend to give you a very, very fruity estery characteristic. Others will give you a very, very lean, very clean characteristic. But they all share in common being reasonably low alcohol because of the British pub culture. Like, you don't go out for one, you go out for 2 or 3, and if it's an 8.5% double IPA, 2 or 3 is going to leave you with a ruined evening and a worse next morning. So they tend to be lower in alcohol. In the bitters family specifically, you tend to have bitter, special bitter, which is kind of an extinct style of beer. You don't really see it anymore. And finally, extra special bitter, ESB. All of those are kind of increasing in hop levels and also increasing in alcohol. ESB really is the main style that we saw over here in North America, especially during the 90s and early 2000s, before we started seeing a lot of bitters brewed in North America, purely because of those beers at 2.8, 2.9% alcohol. They weren't really stable. They would fall apart if they were shipped across the Atlantic. They couldn't really hold together. Now, we've had some very, very low alcohol beers shipped over here before, and they were fine. But by and large, you wanted that little bit of extra hopping, that little bit of extra alcohol, just to give the beer the bones it needs to hold up to international shipping. So ESBs are actually a much bigger deal in the rest of the world than they are actually in the UK. In the rest of the UK, you'll get a pint of lager, a pint of bitter. You usually won't see ESBs except as like either a tourist beer or more of a, they're trying to win like a camera award by having like a really special ESB on tap. So oddly enough, it's one of the less popular styles of bitter in the UK, but internationally is the most popular style, purely because it was the only style that could reasonably effectively be exported. And I agree with Craig, like, this is about as perfect as I could ask for. There's no boiled vegetables. The hops are there, but they're steely and clean and earthy. I get the nice, pretty fruit from the yeast. I get the nice richness from the malt. This is just something I'd be happy to sit down with and, you know, talk to you folks while I'm drinking for like an hour. I'm not going to because we have 3 more beers to get through, but I would be quite happy to do that. This is a lovely drinking beer. Even the carbonation's a little different, like it's a little bit softer, it's a little bit gentler, it doesn't leave you feeling quite so full. And yeah, Eric, I wouldn't regret getting a 4-pack of this either. I think this rules. This is a really, really nice beer. But time waits for no one, so we are going to move right on and we're going to get into their pair of IPAs. Now, they are based on the West Coast, so it would be remiss of them not to have a West Coast IPA, but they also have more of a hazy new school style. So we're going to start here with the Chromatic IPA. This is their classic West Coast. And the only one of the 2 IPAs I've tasted because I did want to actually get a chance to try this beforehand, just in case it was a bit of a disaster and I would have moved it somewhere. But Category 12's reputation is strong enough, I really didn't need to worry. Then again, I would have said that about AleSmith too, and how wrong was I that day? Oh yeah. So for those of you not familiar, of course, West Coast IPAs tend to have more bitterness. They tend to have a little less sugar to them. They tend to be a little more aggressive, whereas East Coast IPAs, while they're more aromatic and perhaps a little bit more generous, they tend to be softer, easier drinking, and as a rule tend to be a little bit lower in alcohol. So let's see if that holds true here. We've got a 7 on the Chromatic, and we have, yeah, 6.1 on the Juicy Data, so that does hold true. I would have been really embarrassed if it was actually the opposite and then I've had to do so much backpedaling on camera, which is pretty much my favorite thing to get to do. You know what? For a new school West Coast IPA, I really like that. When I first tasted it just before we went on camera, I was a little bit torn. Oh, Kevin, the AleSmith story, you were out on the dig. The AleSmith got here and it was like, we were really excited because I love AleSmith so much. It's one of my favorite breweries of all time. We actually had a customer come up 2-3 Mondays ago and he brought a barrel-aged Speedway Stout to drink with us and it was spectacular. Unfortunately, it was only 1 bottle, so I couldn't like put it in the tasting or anything, and I hadn't paid taxes on it, so I couldn't sell it. But it's a stunning brewery. But the beer that we got from AleSmith was like 3 to 4 months old. We did the tasting like the week it arrived because I was so excited about it, and it was already on its way out. I don't think it came up from San Diego refrigerated, or if it did, I feel like they should get their money back on that refrigerated truck. It was just, it wasn't what it should be. Either AleSmith has taken a giant step back in quality, which I doubt, or the beer was just, it was too old. And that's such a shame because they're such a great brewery. Anyway, as I was saying, this beer I was a little bit torn on initially because I was kind of thinking, oh, well, it's going to be a little bit more old-fashioned, it's going to be a little darker, and then I was like, oh, no, this is like Russian River Lagunitas style. It's pale. And you know what? It's been a while since I've had a beer done exactly this way, this kind of new school, if you want to call it San Diego style IPA. I really like this style, and I always return to it. And it's nice to have one in the market. I mean, yes, the nose is predominantly grapefruit, pine, maybe lemon lime. And there's not a whole lot more than that, but it's a very, very drinkable beer. Ooh. Sorry, I got distracted watching the stupid little heart flow up, which is, never mind. That's really damn good. Aaron, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah.
He said yes. Feeling very, very verbose today, this Aaron.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah, I think this is the best West Coast we've had in bloody ages. Like, the Seasons Passed by Cabin was the last West Coast I remember liking this well.
I wonder what the reference to chromatic is.
I mean, you do use chromatography when you're actually determining like the beer color.
Okay. Yeah,
like
sure.
you'll use that to determine your SRM, but. And yeah, the West Coast is balanced, and I'll say that kind of ties in with the pivotal ESB. These are again like, okay, yes, it's a 7% IPA. Yes, I shouldn't have 3 or 4 of these, but I will say, in a market where there's a lot of beers that are a really cool idea, but I could only have 1 or 2, and I'll jump that back to like the Omnipolo like Mango Lassie Sour, probably my favorite sour this year. Absolutely love it. I took a 4-pack to a thing and like I had 2 and I started trading them out with other people because I really only wanted 2. Cool beer, but it's not something I could have many of. This, along with ESB, like it's a drinkable beer. It's not a beer for necessary collectors. It's not a beer for rare beer chasers. It's just something I want to sit and drink because A, I'm finding something new as I drink it, and B, it's just really damn pleasant. Yeah, good catch on the balance, Craig. You're absolutely right. Actually, what is the IBUs? I know it's on the can. I didn't actually look. 79. Yeah, that's higher than I would have thought. I would have picked that out as like 65, 60. Yeah, for that to be almost 80, that's shocking. You're absolutely right. And again, to have enough sweetness in the beer at this very pale color for a West Coast IPA, because Red Racer is like more this color. It's redder than that, sure, but yeah, it's very much that color.
When the IBUs like read that high and they don't like register on your taste buds like that, like how does that get like buried? Or is it buried, or is it just that balance that like makes everything kind of like puts things into or out of phase or something like that?
The IBUs are tied to the hops, and when the hops are really, really fresh for whatever reason, and again, someone smarter and better at this than me would be better to explain it.
Sure.
I feel like when a beer is really fresh, especially West Coast IPAs, you don't taste the perceptible bitterness as much. It's just hidden for some reason.
Yeah.
And then as the beer ages, it starts to kind of fall apart. You start to notice, it tastes sweeter, and yet at the same time it tastes more bitter. That bitter-sweet interplay that makes the beer taste balanced, they both kind of go their own way. It tastes both more bitter and more sweet, and yet when they were in balance, it tasted dry and clean and not that bitter. I don't know why it works that way. I'm sure Steve Kuzyk does, but I sure as hell don't.
Sure.
So. It's in Ring Pop country. Well, we'll be getting to Ring Pop in just a minute here, because we have some things to talk about with Ring Pop. We have a special guest next week, already booked and confirmed. Does this mean no new AleSmith in the store? No, it means I'm going to be still trying to get refunded for the AleSmith I've got. You'll notice it's not on the shelf because I refuse to sell it. I would rather throw it in the dumpster, well, pour it down the sink and recycle the cans. But I would rather metaphorically throw it in the dumpster than actually sell it in the store. So no, we're going to try and get refunded on it, and then I'll be asking for brewed on dates the next time we get a release on it, because that's not acceptable. You know, as everybody pretty well knows, I'm a giant West Coast IPA nerd. I gotta say, I keep like looking back at that can of bitter and be like, you know what, when all this is done, I'm going back to that bitter. That's leading the charge, and I am genuinely surprised by that. That's a good bitter if it's beating the very good West Coast IPA. Or maybe my tastes are changing. I hope they're not. I like my tastes. You know, I'm a very, opinionated person with very strong opinions. I don't want to go changing them.
Is ESB supposed to be served like room temperature?
Yes, so ESB can certainly be served warmer. It's a myth that they're served room temperature. They're served at kind of ideal cellar temperature, which is about 12 degrees Celsius. So kind of the temperature of your basement in winter. It's not room temperature, but it's certainly not the like 3 or 4 degrees a lot of keg fridges are kept at. It's certainly in Lethbridge. So it's colder than room temperature. It's warmer than a fridge. You know, the English drink the beer at room temperature is petty Americans who are surprised that, you know, they don't have a McDonald's on every corner. That's really mean, but it's also very true. All right, the juicy data. Hazy IPA. West Coast Brewery doing an East Coast IPA. Now, we've had some mixed success with this. I mean, okay, Superflux makes some pretty kick-ass East Coast IPAs, but I'm not going to name names, but for those of you who've been watching this for a while, probably know which brewery I'm talking about, where it was a very well-known West Coast brewery, not AleSmith, everything was bad, but very well-known West Coast IPA producer.
Burp cam.
Shut up. Very well-known West Coast IPA producer who made an East Coast IPA, and it was just like, yep, that's a West Coast IPA with some color in it. Good job. But yeah, so this should be very, very pretty. Double dry hop, just like the Ring Pop is, should be great. Future Carl's gonna break my heart. That's fair. If anyone's gonna break my heart, it may as well be me. Then I can just be mad at myself. All right, category 12. Damn. I have no idea what the hell my top 3 is going to be at this point.
Yeah,
that's delicious.
fun.
Yeah, like it's... Again, I think I'm really glad I'm having it fresh, because I can't imagine this is going to be this good in 3 weeks. But... Oh, man.
How's the order for you so far?
I think the order probably could have been flipped here,
Say, yeah.
but it was between...
Because this is...
Yeah, it's so delicate. I know.
Lovely.
It is lovely, but you're right. We should have done this before the West Coast.
That's okay, though.
Will Category 12 be a regular in store? It will never be a regular because it's not available often enough. It'll probably be like a more available Superflux. It will be here when it's here, but it won't be in and out quite as fast as Superflux is. So there'll be times when you're coming in, we'll have 6. And there'll be times you're coming in, we have like nothing. So Category 12 will be a more regular Superflux. It's exceptionally good. We are tasting it in completely the wrong order.
Juicy data.
I'm not going to change them. These should be reversed though. But yeah, that's really damn good. I'll say that's okay. So we actually have been doing a tasting recently, just among the staff, of like the hoppy beers from Establishment, because I've been really hyping up Brighton the Corners because I think it's the best hoppy thing that Establishment's ever made. And yes, for any of you who are wondering if we're getting the crazy new Establishment beer that's just been announced, I don't know if it's been announced publicly yet, so I won't say the name or what's in it. But if any of you have seen it and are curious if we're getting it, yes, that will be Tuesday. That's really good. I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
I've been recently revisiting Establishment's hoppy stuff to see how it is, and A, I like Afternoon Delight a lot more than I remembered liking it. B, if that was brewed in Alberta and it said Cabin or Annex or Establishment or 88, I think we'd sell like 8 flats a week of that, because that's fantastic.
You notice it's a bit salty?
Yeah, it is a little bit salty, isn't it?
Probably water? Splash of seawater in there?
Well, I mean, I've been to Victoria, and when I stay at my aunt's house in Victoria, the water tends to be a little bit on the brackish side.
Yeah.
They might be just letting that bleed through. Now, again, knowing the brewery in their background, I'd be surprised if they weren't stripping the water down to neutral.
Yeah.
So if this is salty, they're definitely adding the salt back.
Yeah.
But I'll say, like, the more beers I try with salt, when Gose has started becoming a thing, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, we started seeing the first like craft fruit examples creep in. I was really not convinced by the salt. Now, when I have a sour and it doesn't have salt, it's like, where's the salt? I'm missing the salt.
I love it.
I love it too. Like, and IPAs with a little bit of salt, just a very light background perceptible salinity, not salty, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm right there for it. Yeah. Yes, irrational things. Thank you. I didn't want to say it in case it hadn't been announced, because the problem for me is like so many of these things I find out when they're still in the we really haven't announced it to anyone phase. And for my back of my mind, it's like, I know all of these things and I don't know what's public knowledge and what isn't. And we accidentally spoiled a beer for Cabin last year. We released it like a week early and talked about it on camera. And they were really nice about it, but you could tell they were really upset. So I'm really making a conscious decision not to talk about anything unless I'm absolutely certain it has been publicly announced, because we are privy to some reasonably privileged information. But yeah, Irrational Things sounds okay. The high alcohol white can series has been a bit hit and miss for me. But let's be fair, they're using like freeze-dried New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc grape skins to make this. So they're gonna get that super cool gooseberry, grapefruit, lemon, lime thing off the grape skins. And as you all know, I'm a giant Burdock fan. If Burdock's beers weren't like $8 to $9 a bottle, we'd do a Burdock tasting here. I love beer with wine in it. I think it's a fantastic idea. And if you haven't had Burdock's beers, you owe it to yourself to at least try one or two. They do tend to run like $8 to $13 a bottle, even for like a 300 to 375 ml, which is why it's not going to be part of our tasting series. But oh my God, Burdock stuff is just incredible. And that's kind of the same idea. They're using like East Coast Riesling and Gewürztraminer grapes, and basically taking wine, or at least the leavings of having made wine, and blending it straight into it. We had that with Vines and Binds from Cabin, a beer I was never entirely convinced by, but these do it exceptionally well. So I'm really excited to see what Establishment does with it. And no, we're not doing email blasts. We used to have one of those. We had like a 0.12 open rate, so we stopped doing them because I don't need to spend 3 hours writing an email that 2 people are going to read. That's why I didn't enter academia. Anyway.
A crummy store like Instagram post seems to work fine.
Yeah, exactly. The store Instagram posts are always like very topical. When it shows up on Facebook, that's great too. But you know, it's broadly we're getting the information out there, just not in email format.
Sure.
Okay, so let's talk about what we got next week. So this is a tasting that I've been kind of teasing, kind of talking about for a while, and I've mentioned that, you know, I'm absolutely convinced that the formula for Ring Pop has changed. I'm absolutely convinced that the formula, well, I know for a fact that the formula for Wave Pool has changed. But at the same time, I thought I had these already turned around, but I didn't. Well done me. Much better. They've actually released a new version of Night Gallery. They've done a double Night Gallery at a higher alcohol. They doubled the malt, doubled the hops, everything else. But the beer actually came out clear. It's not a hazy this time. So I want to talk to Jesse, and Jesse from 88 will be joining us. I want to talk to Jesse about why this beer didn't turn out cloudy and how beer recipes and IPA recipes evolve over time. And also the fact that, you know, they've been so busy that poor the owl. Like, they started out in Night Gallery and then they switched to Wave Pool because they ran out of, I want to say they ran out of Ring Pop, so they started substituting Night Gallery kegs, and then they ran out of Night Gallery kegs, so they started giving everybody Wave Pool kegs, and then a whole bunch of people were like, you know what? Actually, I really like Wave Pool. We'll just stick with Wave Pool. And then they had this giant Wave Pool shortage because they couldn't actually keep it in stock. I believe it's actually what happened to the Owl too. They'd been pouring Night Gallery ever since they reopened, and then they put Wave Pool on, and everyone's like, oh, screw Night Gallery, we want Wave Pool. So they stuck with it. So we're going to talk about all those like fun logistical things about brewing beer, about changing recipes, about meeting expectations, and about, you know, making fun, crazy seasonals like their one-off IPA series, like when they have spruce tips and all sorts of madness in it. So, and we'll also talk about fun stories like how Ring Pop went from being this one-time like we're just going to do this one time IPA. And then it became such an absolute monster that they had to make it a year round. And then sales kind of dried up a little bit and they had to rebrew it with a slightly new recipe. So lots of fun things to talk about next week. And Jesse's always one of our very best guests. So that's going to be a ton of fun. And Eric's on the other side. Night gallery over wave pool. All right, and I definitely got to the crowd. Yep, successful burn. So let's move right along to category 12, and this is their raspberry vanilla sour. Now, like I believe I said in the promo, they don't list this as raspberry vanilla sour on Connect. They just list it as sour, and it's a rotating listing. Which on Connect is... Oh, did you delete that out of the promo? Okay, fair enough. Well, so fine.
You can talk about it now.
Now I can talk about it. Great. Thanks, Aaron. So no, they do keep these as a rotating series. They're always a little bit different. They're always something new. I don't know how they're doing it with the alcohols. The alcohols seem to all be different on their website, so maybe they're re-registering it each time. I don't really know how the AGLC works with those sorts of things. You see some really crazy stuff come through. So this is raspberry vanilla. I'm kind of expecting this to be a little bit like Jamrock. I hope it's good. Aaron's making all kinds of faces. Let's see if it's... I mean, the other three were great. How bad could it be?
It's not bad.
Oh, wow. That's nuts.
Wow.
There is so much raspberry.
Yeah.
That's the loudest beer we've had since all the things. But not in a bad way. It's just really loud. Oh, and the vanilla's really rich in... Ooh. Oh, that's like Jamrock raspberry. Oh, God. How the cock am I going to rank these things? I don't...
Wow.
We need to have a talk about vanilla. Eric, do you think it's too much vanilla here, or you think there's not enough?
Talk about vanilla. Yeah, fair enough, though.
Yeah, this smells like raspberry vanilla ice cream happiness. Oh, God, I like that. That is... Whew. Okay, category 12. You know what? For a brewery we didn't even have on the shelves like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that's really special. Oh, wow. Too many vanilla everythings. I'm trying to think how many, like, okay, yes, those blueberry vanilla ales like Babe, I am not a fan. But I mean, Jamrock has vanilla. That Transcontinental Pop from... Establishment and Blood Brothers. Yep. That had vanilla, but those were both great beers. Maybe vanilla just... And, okay, I've drank too much Mill Street Vanilla Porter at the Old Owl.
Whoa, excuse me.
Well, Aaron, I'm sure the mic didn't pick that up at all. But, yeah, I think vanilla, it has to be a good beer and it really accents it. And if it's not the world's strongest beer, let's say, and I don't mean alcohol, I mean it's just not a great brew in general, the vanilla is just going to run rampant over it and it's just going to be a hot mess. So, you know what? I really like that. Aaron, you're looking thoughtful. What are you feeling here?
Yeah, pensive on this one. Like it.
But don't love it.
Carbonation is interesting. Really like
it's very gentle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fine. The way it like sticks to the glass like that is interesting.
Yes, there is definitely still some of this available, Megan. There was most of a shelf left. And yeah, it does taste like raspberry pie. It is all kinds of good. I have no, I see you, Eric, not wanting to like this. No, I'm happy to like this. I have no shame. This is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, this was a tasting I was not expecting this. Like, it's a West Coast IPA and an East Coast IPA and a sour. We do this every week. We have a bitter. Great. I love bitters, but we've done them before. What a hell of a lineup. God damn, category 12. Thank you. This is kind of what I was hoping AleSmith Week was going to be like, but okay. Beer worth leaving your career for. Yep, you definitely chose a better career. However good you were as a microbiologist or biochemist, you weren't that good because you were a better brewer. And Kevin's picking Jamrock over this. And you know what? I think for me it would be the 8% alcohol in this that would maybe deter me. 7.9.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it doesn't show. Like, it doesn't show at all. This is dangerous as anything. It's the strongest beer on the table, and it doesn't taste like it.
Yeah.
That'll bring a blush to your cheeks there. Yeah, it's going to be something.
Will. Sure has. Oh, I didn't notice I closed that from the stores.
Yeah, I didn't notice. Like, I noticed it when I kind of picked up the can to look and make sure it was definitely raspberry vanilla. I was like, oh, 7.9. Okie doke. No, that's hell yes.
Can art's good too on all these. They look great.
They do look great. Yeah, you're right. I particularly like actually the chromatic. I think that's a really classy beer design. The juicy date is cool. This is
ESP
fun.
is cool. I like that. It's kind of like
Oh yeah.
fire or something. Eh?
I think it's supposed to be like the sun. Yeah, like maybe the sun.
Too. I don't know if you went to their website or not.
I did.
You did. Yeah.
Yep.
It's really well done.
The website is really well done. It could use downloadable PDFs or descriptions of all the beers for industry people.
Oh, fair. There's a note. Yeah.
Yep, but that's about all of it. John, you absolutely can. We will have, if you're here early enough, we will still have all 4 of these beers left. And we definitely will, because we still have 6 tasting kits left. So, yeah, even if you just want to come by and get the tasting kit and get 1 of each, there are still 6 sitting over there because we only sold 18 of these. So, oh, John, no. Rankings. Oh, no. I was hoping to get out before the rankings started coming in, because if I see the rankings, I have to rank them. Hell. I actually have the same as Deirdre. 4132. It has to be the sour, the bitter, the East Coast and the West. Yep. Where are you, Aaron?
I think I am 3-2-1-4.
You don't like the sour that much?
Not that I don't like it.
It's just a strong lineup.
Yeah. 3-2-1-4.
Terry's got a really fascinating one of 3-4-1-2. Bitter dead last. We got some bitters dead last. That's fantastic. Love seeing it. Or sorry, 3-4-1-2. Never mind. Yep. No, I'm right there with it. I realized I screwed that up. Craig is 1-3-4-2. Yeah. Or 1-3-2-4. Didn't like the sour. Interesting. And Kevin, 1-2-3-4. Kevin, I think you may have sunstroke, sir. Did you get that looked at? All right.
Made fun of Kevin like a while ago, and then he disappeared for.
Well, no, he was out on a dig.
Oh, he's.
Yeah, I saw Kevin on Monday, and yeah, he's been on like an archaeology dig for like the last however many weeks. Yeah, he's been busy. Like.
Okay, that's fair. Even though you think I'm wrong.
You are wrong, but there's also, objectively no such thing as wrong.
Sure.
Yep. I love all sorts of things that are supposed to be wrong, so that's fine. All right.
We did it.
We did it.
Quick. We were nimble.
Okay, wow, we were really light on our feet this time.
That's fine. That's great.
Yeah, I think we're done, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. This was Category 12. Next week will be the 88 Hoppy Beer head-to-head. Yes, it's a bit of a ranking and a giant judgment fest of 88's Hoppy Beers, with Jesse from 88 there. And it's like, you know what, Jesse? I don't know why you're wasting your time with the Night Gallery. You guys suck. But, as much as you want to do that, it's also a really fun exploration of how IPA recipes change over time. And also, I should point out how proud Aaron is of his tower,
Yes.
and that I also ruined it for him by turning all the labels to face the same way, because he was really proud of how the colors worked before that. But yeah, thanks everybody. That was great. We'll see you next week, September 1st. And wow, it's weird. August is over, isn't it? Yeah, September 1. Well, we'll leave off there. Good night, everybody.